Hitler comes to visit the front to congratulate his troops. At Ypres, where as a corporal he had fought in World War I, he gives the order for his armoured divisions to halt. Will he now threaten England? Will he leave Göring's Luftwaffe to kill off the wounded enemy? Or is he still afraid of an Allied counterattack along the length of his flank? In any case, the German troops take a breather for the first time in 10 days after a 250-mile advance, while the encircled Allied armies fall back on Dunkirk. The entire British expeditionary force and the remains of the Army of the North are now holed up in Dunkirk in a tight mass, hemmed in on all sides. Churchill, who has replaced Chamberlain as head of the British government, gives the order to save the British Expeditionary Corps, the only army Britain possesses. 850 boats of all kinds cross the English Channel. Fishing boats, lifeboats, coastal freighters, pleasure yachts, trawlers, tugs, and even the ceremonial barges from the Thames. Anything that can stay afloat sails for France, and soon 300 French boats join them. In the pocket of Dunkirk, 500,000 men are waiting for them. 500,000 men, exhausted, beaten, and lost, who have gathered on the beaches. 300,000 British, 200,000 French. The Luftwaffe constantly attacks the boats. More than 6,000 men died in the evacuation, burned, drowned, or choked by fuel oil from damaged and sunken ships. So, Dunkirk becomes a great battle for the French Navy, the Royal Navy, and the Royal Air Force, who throw in 150 fighter planes. They lose 106, but they account for 150 German planes. All around the beaches of Dunkirk, the Germans attack furiously. They realize now that the enemy is going to escape them, and 3 French divisions fight at close quarters to hold them off for nearly a week. The soldiers of the 12th, 32nd, and 68th divisions are sacrificed to protect the embarkation. In 8 days, the English and French boats evacuate 330,000 men back to England. 200,000 British soldiers have escaped from the Germans. This is a success, but it isn't victory. On the contrary, for the first time, the British realize that they themselves can be invaded. It's a shock. On June the 4th, in a great debate in the House of Commons, Churchill announces solemnly that if necessary, England will fight to the end, on the beaches, on the hills, in the fields, and in the streets. On that day, the spirit of Dunkirk is born. "130,000 French now find themselves in England. For them, the Battle of France has not ended. French boats are going to take them back to Brittany to carry on the fight. June the 4th, the Germans enter Dunkirk and discover all the equipment abandoned by the British. 2,500 heavy guns, 11,000 machine guns, and 75,000 vehicles. Off the beach lie the wrecks of 243 sunken boats, of which 9 were British destroyers and 6 French torpedo boats. "90,000 soldiers who haven't been able to embark are taken prisoner. 50,000 British and 40,000 French. Dunkirk is a bitter defeat. General Weygand has lost his battle force. To create a new army, Weygand recalls the Alpine troops from the Maginot Line and from North Africa. He hopes to constitute a new force of 60 divisions in order to counterattack. But for that, he needs time, 15 days. Meanwhile, he gives the order to hold the Somme. This is the Weygand line. For this holding mission on the Somme, he has only 7 divisions. Among them, the 4th Armoured Division under Colonel de Gaulle. De Gaulle is given the temporary rank of general. They arrive in the Abbeville sector. One of his officers, Lieutenant Cressman, remembers.
This is where General de Gaulle was. His command post, his room, was here, below to the right. And when we came for liaison meetings, all that courtyard was cluttered by general staff equipment. And when we came for briefing, we came through that door and we went in to find General de Gaulle in his office there. We were in the middle of enormous confusion. Everything was upside down. We saw only men who were fleeing the scene with all their belongings, their wagons, their cows, their horses, their old carriages. And the troops were quitting too. Truly, one didn't know who would be able to hold out. Well, de Gaulle held out for a long time.
Not only does de Gaulle hold out, but he attacks as he had always advocated, with all the tanks massed like a clenched fist. He advances 15 kilometers.
This wood was taken, and then the one behind. One more victory, and we would be heading for Berlin.
And just when did you feel that things were turning out badly?
Listen, we didn't have that feeling that things were going badly. One felt that we were running out of steam. We hadn't any more tanks or equipment left, and that one couldn't advance any further because we were alone. Reinforcements were needed, but we were never desperate at any time. We took very hard blows there. Down below, there is the village of Maroy, which was retaken. We retook it, they took it back. We went back as far as the end of the village there. There were battles, but we were always winning until the moment when we were told, good, retreat, you're being relieved. And we were reunited then in a forsaken place called Roy-Voissy. And it's there de Gaulle held his first parade. It was the 2nd of June. I shall remember it all my life. It was my wedding anniversary. And it was the first time de Gaulle had been seen reviewing his troops, those that were left. Then we were a little proud. One threw one's chest out to perhaps receive medals. We were there in ranks, the last of the Mohicans, bold as brass. And he arrived, our general. He spoke to all these proud men, one after the other, and he said to each one, where is your tank? It is burnt, my general. How did it get burnt? I was hit twice by the 105s. But it should have been extinguished. I extinguished it, my general, but they hit me again. Well, it should have been salvaged a second time. I've no use for men without equipment. I'd rather have equipment without men. That was the goal.
June the 5th. Paul Reynaud gets rid of Daladier and he calls in General de Gaulle as Under-Secretary for War. He wants to stiffen his cabinet because Marshal Pétain and several other ministers are already talking about ending the war. In less than 48 hours, the Germans have overwhelmed the Weygand line and crossed the Somme. It is a tidal wave. 95 German divisions, 10 of which are armored, fan out over France. In 2 days, Rommel conquers Normandy and takes Rouen. At the same time, von Kleist's armored divisions are approaching Paris. The Parisians, in their turn, are panic-stricken. Everything collapses. On June the 10th, the government leaves Paris. The same day, Mussolini declares war on France. A stab in the back. The French people feel abandoned. They flee, leaving everything, their houses, their